every week, Brittany, we say that we're going to start the show like normal people start the show.
No, we
And
cannot.
somehow or another, we never do it. So welcome everybody once again to the DJ Ekin podcast. Of course, I am DJ Ekin with the lovely Miss Brittany Gonzalez. How are you, first of all, before we even go anywhere?
Hey, I'm good. I'm better today. I got my makeup on. I have my Kylie Jenner red lipstick on that is smudge proof. I'm feeling myself. Today's a good day.
So you're actually, I finally met someone that's buying lip stuff from a girl who 5 years ago didn't even have lips.
I've never
met anyone. I know people who talk about it, but I've never met anyone who actually bought it. I know somebody was buying it.
Listen.
And they say it's good though. Is it good?
It's really amazing stuff. This stuff is smudge free. Look. You see my wrist has nothing on it? No, I'll put my lip. Okay, it's mostly smudge free.
I was gonna say, the real smudge test to me would have been to rub your hand from left to right, not that pat. You just said, "You can test my smudge." Left to right across your face, just like that. Because I'm like that little brother you hate, right off top. I'm that little brother. You'd be like, "Why did you do that?" I'd be like, "You said to test it." I just wipe my hand right just across your face.
Take that part out. Here, show my hand now. Look, see, nothing. Yeah.
Basically, you just lost your chance to be an endorser. so much for you getting to be an influencer for Kylie Jenner. So much for that.
Well, 4 out of 5 stars.
You got to get ready when these tests come. You just never know. You didn't even know I might be a talent scout. I've got a lot of things going on. That could have been your job.
You too. I think the last time I saw you were a minister. I believe you were like doing something.
No. The last thing that worked in your favor is because all you got to say is that if you have a question, immediately we go to hashtag Ask the DJ.
Yes.
Immediately, that, but today is a good day. Today is a good day, Brittany, because I know we kind of keep it light, but you and I talk a lot off tape, off pod, and we both been kind of having some things going on. And of course, with all the, how do I put this? With all the images and let me see. About how many videos of violence do you think that you get in your phone a day? Like just running
God. All right. I would say at least daily, at least 7 to 10. 7 to 10 between all my social medias.
Right. And after a while, does it seem like it's just another thing in your phone, or do you think that after a while it starts to bother your mental?
Well, definitely. I don't think there's a point of numbness anymore. I think more of it's more of a, the mental starts to wear you down 1,000%. Right.
Let me tell you why I'm asking you that, because I'm asking you that because me and my mom talk like almost every day. Like if I don't talk to her like on a day, the next morning she's calling like, I didn't hear from you yesterday, right? So we talk a lot. And so, in these last 2 to 3 weeks, we've kind of dealt with quite a few things that were different for you and I. We stay in the middle of stuff, but it kind of got a little, not tricky for us, but just you were in it beside me as I was bringing things to your attention and telling you what was going on. And in the midst of that, all the Black Lives Matter stuff, all the more police violence against African-American men, then just the videos that we see online, period, this, that, and the other. Then you bring up the old stuff. Then, I'm a big documentary watcher, so I'm seeing stuff left and right. And my mom says one day, she goes, maybe you should stop watching all that stuff.
Like a detox?
I guess for lack of a better term, I guess that is kind of the way she was putting it.
Was she saying like just stop watching it no longer, or take a break from watching it?
Well, let me give it to you like this.
Okay.
The speech was, a mom knows her son. A mom knows her son, and I'm the fourth. I'm the baby, right? So she was like, I just feel like something's a little different in listening to you talk. Not to the point where she thought I was going to do something to myself or I was ready to jump off the deep end, but she could tell in my psyche, things were running a little bit different. And then I get this article, and the article says how viral videos of killings of Black men take a toll on the Black male mental health.
1,000%.
And that made me think a little more. And I'll tell you why it made me think a little more. It made me think a little more because of a couple of things. For one, that talk with my mom, then to see that article, And then even on a little deeper scale, which you may have heard this because I know, you know what I'm saying, like, you know me and Quest and dudes you know, that are black, the stigma of the African American or the black male seeing somebody like a psychiatrist or someone to talk to for help. And I was like, is it time that I talk to somebody? Should I think more about talking to somebody? Should I just bag up completely off of social media?
Uh-huh. And what do you think?
Well, I think where I want to start is with today's guest. So I kept telling you that I had a very good friend that I think super highly of. Hey, Audrey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You know what, Brittany? Wait, first off, before we go any further, right? Audrey, thank you so much for being on this call, right? And joining my little podcast. I want to introduce you to Brittany. Brittany, this is Audrey.
Hi,
Audrey.
And I also want to make it clear, Brittany, I've called Audrey on a few occasions, and never once have I gotten that happy of a greeting. It must.
I know Brittany was in the room.
I knew it was something. Audrey, I know you're busy, and I was just telling Brittany about why I wanted to have this conversation, and I'll bring you up to how I got here, and then we can talk a little bit about what you do and your background and your profession, and then maybe get your thoughts. And what I was telling her was, you know, like the article I sent you, and talking to my mom every day, and Brittany just gave this example too. It's like a good easily 7 to 10 videos or images that come across some timeline or something that we're looking at on this thing that we call the phone nowadays, right? And you start watching these things, and you don't know whether you're becoming numb or whether you're just seeing it too much, or you're getting upset about them. And then I was telling her, like, as a black man though, I'm probably not too quick to admit though if I think it's bothering my psyche, or I won't even admit it to myself. And I'm probably 80% sure that I'm not going to see nobody to talk about it, because that's just not what we normally do as black men. You know, and I was telling her that I was thinking in this day and time, maybe it might be time, especially for us as black men, to start looking at that part a little bit differently. And I said, you know what, this is maybe where I shift that, you know, with what we're talking about here on the DJ Ekin podcast, and reach out to someone that I got to say this again, that I think super highly of, you know, that, you know.
Say it again.
A little louder.
That I think super highly of, and get your thoughts on this subject. But first, just give us a little bit of a background on your background and what it is that you do, so that they can kind of go, you know, I ain't just call you because, you know, you could do a few dances, you know. You know.
You will not. Okay. All right. I'm actually Dr. Audrey. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in Memphis, Tennessee. I am the owner of Calyx Psychological Services, which is a private practice there in the city. But I also am the regional vice president of a correctional healthcare company where we provide medical, mental health, and dental services throughout the country for incarcerated individuals. So I cover, I'm over 86 jails in the Midwest. And so I make sure that all of our incarcerated individuals are absolutely getting the best health care and mental health care.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I stay pretty busy. I try.
So let's start here then. Do you think, just in what you've seen in your travels, is the black man pretty much the last one that wants to come and sit down and talk to you?
I would absolutely say it's yes. But I will say that it's growing though. I think the awareness of the importance of taking care of your mental health has shifted. I'm actually getting a lot of, and I have several black male clients, but I'm getting more recently within, I would say, the last 4 months. But they're not coming alone. They come with a spouse or a girlfriend, And which is fine with me because, you know, whatever it takes to get them in the door until they get comfortable,
Right.
is, you know, what I recommend. But I would say that, again, I think that as a community, not just Black males, but I also feel as a community, we've become more aware of the importance of taking care of your mental health. Traditionally, you know, we are a very quiet culture where we keep everything close to the vest. We keep everything within the family circle, or we pray about it or go to church. But I think the more the generations evolve, we see that there are different resources to kind of help us. Everyone doesn't respond to the same thing. And so I think that we are looking to different avenues to try to help solve problems for ourselves.
And I ain't even gonna lie, the mental health conversation to me has seemed like I said, it's coming up a lot more these days. But I can think back maybe 2 years ago, you know, when I really started hearing it a lot, right? I ain't gonna lie to you. For the longest time, I would be like, man, y'all got to stop jumping on this mental health thing. Everybody can't be crazy. And I'm just being honest because, you know, I have to be honest. I just felt like everybody was running to, well, you know, it could be my mental health. I was like, no, you just want to do foul stuff, bro. You just foul, you know, and then it took me, you know, for a minute, I wouldn't do it. And then finally I sat down and, well, wound up laying down actually. And when I started to unload with the person that I talked to, they really, when I was finished, they were like, how long you been holding this stuff in? And it really was like 10, 12 years for me some stuff that I had just buried and hadn't talked about.
Right. And it's so, you know, interesting to see the transition of a man who comes into therapy who is actually very reluctant. And then at the end, they become almost a totally different person because they allow themselves to be vulnerable in a space that they're not judged, and they're able to kind of unpack so much trauma. You know, and I think even what's going on now is added trauma. And we as a culture experience racial trauma, you know, in different forms throughout our lives. But how often do we talk about it? Sometimes we just accept it. It is what it is, and we keep it moving because we have things to do, right? And so, you know, I think that to let people know therapy is not for when you go crazy. It's actually better to go to therapy before you go crazy, because if you can employ the skills necessary before you hit crisis, then you probably won't even get in crisis. So I always tell people, don't call when the house is burning down, because I'm going to be focused on the house and getting the flames out. I need to know what's going on. Like, let's check the wiring first. Like, let's look at all of the fire hazards before you call. So it's always, you know, I encourage people to contact their therapist or look for options of counseling even before the crisis hits.
So I'm trying to, how do I address you? Like Dr. Audrey? Is that, like, I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, everyone calls me Dr. Audrey or Dr. T, but Dr. Audrey is fine.
Okay.
That is not what everyone calls you, because that is not what I got for you.
Well, I want to address her as Dr. Audrey. Yes.
Thank you, Brittany. You know that there are a couple of special people sprinkled throughout the country that call me other things, but
well, listen, it takes a lot to be a doctor, so we gotta make sure we say that title twice. But so I wanted to ask you, because what you just brought up to me was like, I have a question about that, because like you said, you don't want to wait till the house is on fire to go get help. But a lot of the times, I think even like I can't speak for Black men, but I can speak for people, for myself in general. I think that people don't really know what are the signs that, like, okay, I really do need to go. This is my point where I need to go talk to someone. Right. You know, before that, like, what are the kind of signs that you can point out to say, well, if you're thinking like this, or, you know, is there something like that to kind of give you the sign? Let's go talk. Right.
Well, I think the first sign is we're always the ones who know when things are not. And I hear this all the time. I just wasn't feeling myself. You know, and whatever that means for you, if you're feeling like you're not, your mood isn't the same, you're not, you know, talking to the people that you usually talk to, you withdrawing, When something inside of you or, things around you feel like they're changing or you're not responding the same, that's definitely one sign. Another sign is, and people think it's funny when I say this, but it's absolutely true. When people who you call don't want to take your call, like that's a sign, because what that means is you probably kind of overwhelm them and worn them down where, they can no longer help you. So you want to make sure that you're going to someone who's trained to help you unpack those things, because your inner circle, they want the best for you, and they're not going to tell you in a non-judgmental, well, some of them could be non-judgmental, but not a neutral space, because they're invested in you being well as well, and so they have personal attachments to some of the things that you may go through. So you need a neutral party. But when you start to overwhelm your friends and your family to the point where they see your number on the phone and like, I don't feel like it today, that's definitely a sign that you want to kind of seek help outside of your normal circle. But also when you start to notice that the things that usually make you feel better when you get in those spaces are no longer working, like some people have coping skills where they exercise or they write or they listen to music. And when those things are no longer working and they don't, help you kind of come out of the space that you're in, that's another sign that you definitely need to kind of look at other options and possibly seek a therapist.
Mm-hmm. But I think definitely right now, Black men, especially with all, like what we were talking about with the videos of violence and the murders, and you see that just flooding your timeline everywhere you go. It's constant. I feel like that alone, like right now, Black men, like that's enough. Like you need to go talk, see someone.
Right. And what that is a term called racial trauma. Really what that is, it's a form of race-based stress that we experience from constantly witnessing violence, whether it's real or perceived, against Black people, So, and it's very similar to PTSD, but PTSD is not based on race, and even the coping skills for PTSD are not always culturally sensitive. So when we talk about race-based trauma, it's directly related to a trauma that is based on discrimination. And so when we see these images over and over again, we're re-traumatizing ourselves. So, and I can tell you, I've never seen one of those videos because I know my limits. And I think for us, we need to kind of take a step back and just say, what are my limits? Like, I didn't even see the movie, what was the movie on Netflix about the five guys? I didn't even
when they see us?
Yes.
When they see us. I couldn't watch that. I know everyone saw that and they wanted my opinion, as a psychologist, but I know that that's something that would affect my energy. And I know the outcome. So, I know what happened at the end. I don't necessarily need to know the details to comment on, things. And I think we need to get to a place where if we're starting to see that we're hyper vigilant, and we as a people are very skeptical and hyper vigilant when the police get behind us. When I get pulled over, my heart starts beating fast. And I know a lot of Black men experience that too, because we don't know what's gonna happen. And so when we experience these, physiological effects as well. And so we need to say to ourselves, like, am I being overwhelmed, or am I constantly exposing myself to re-triggering events by constantly reading and watching, something that has happened negatively based and violently based on race? And so, and it touches us and I'm a mother of a Black boy, it touches us very differently because we see ourselves in those situations. We see ourselves, as family members or even as the victims. I know a lot of Black men have come to me and like, that could have easily been me. I think about what my son could have easily been Tamir Rice, And so things like that, we need to make sure that we're not exposing ourselves to the point where we become re-triggered, that we become overly angry without an outlet, And we become numb and desensitized to everything that's going on.
Right.
So
I get
if it's become too much, like turn it off. We know what happened at the end. We know the end of the story in certain situations. So do we need to constantly watch every detail over and over again?
Right. Yeah, that is something I've had to do. Like I've literally, I have to like go past it. If it even remotely looks like that it's going to be that kind of content, I kind of have to go past it. And I know my barber, we're in like a group text, and my barber literally came in the group and was like, yo, if y'all still sharing like those videos in this group text, like just dump me out of it, because he's like, I can't watch it. And I really was starting to like that. I was like, I can't really watch it because I'm starting to feel like a certain way. And it's like you said, you kind of know the outcome, or you kind of know what the outcome, you very much feel like you know what the outcome is going to be. So you're like, I don't need to watch these steps in between. And then, like you said, after that, then you turn the TV on, it's on every news station, and then it's across, it's across every place you turn. It's like at what point can you get a break? And I just thought it was starting to be like, I'm like, maybe this is becoming too much. Maybe this is becoming too much. One of the things you just mentioned too.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You got the floor. Go ahead.
I was just saying we're constantly taking in all of this negative stimuli, and it creates negative emotions within us. But how often do we release that? What do we do? Do we just sit there and constantly watch it and read it? And, are we doing something proactive? Are we getting out trying to kind of talk about what's going on inside of us? Are we trying to empower the community? Like, what are we doing with that negative energy? Because here's the thing, when the collective, finds themselves, consumed with negative energy, who raises the vibration? Right. Who's the one who's going to rise up to save the collective if everyone is drowning in negative energy?
Right. One of the things you mentioned, and you kind of lean towards that point in what you just said just now, right? When you were talking earlier, you said we keep taking this in, right? And where's the outlet? Do you have some suggestions on maybe what an outlet could be? Because that was where I was going to go, and you did kind of mention it again a little bit right there at that point. But do you have like if I was coming to see you and you mentioned that, and I started to maybe talk to you about some outlets, where would the conversation go then about what the outlets could be?
Right. Well, I can tell you now that I think that a lot of Black men are starting to communicate more with each other. And I know personally a group of guys who now they do bi-weekly Zoom calls. It's like 15 of them. And I think every week it grows. And they sit and they talk about like what it's like to be a Black man in America, what it's like to be a Black father. And then they walk away with tangible tools that they can use. And it's almost like they've created their own support group. And it's like they have lawyers, doctors, they have athletes, they have like politicians, they have financial advisors all on this call. And they actually walk away with, okay, so what's our plan? What are the goals we're going to achieve before we get on the next call?
That is amazing.
So really like coming together it's awesome. They kicked me out of the room, but I figure out like what y'all really talking about. But, I heard a glimpse of it, and it was just so empowering to see, a group of Black men who some of them probably wouldn't feel comfortable coming to see a therapist, but they're comfortable around each other and they trust each other. And maybe someone in that circle then would say, therapy may be good for you, or therapy may be an option for us. But they have to kind of gain that trust in that circle first. So definitely looking at your support system, seeing how you can rally around each other and create an internal support group. Another thing is, again, always look at, because my thing is when you immediately feel the energy and you feel the negativity rising up, you have to kind of release that in some way. Even if it's going out, taking a run, exercising, doing what makes you feel good, always go to your go-to coping skills to kind of help you relieve that energy. But again, particularly in this, racial climate, I think that a lot of us are kind of using that energy to either empower the next generation either vocally, making sure that they understand the importance of voting or being an active participant in your community, and also just mentoring. You know, we have so many young Black men out here that need to be mentored. And sometimes I think we just kind of look at our personal circle, look at our sons and look at our daughters and say, we have to take care of them. Yeah, we have to take care of them too. But we are our brother's keeper. We are our sister's keeper. We have to kind of reach down, reach back, and kind of pull someone else with us. So I think, you know, empowering each other, looking at our collective support system, but also being mentors to those who just need a little guidance.
Mm-hmm.
You see that, Brittany? I told you I'm going to get better, Brittany.
But you know, therapy is a teacher, Brittany. I'm going to tell you. I've been knowing Ekin for 12 years, probably longer than that. He is so much better.
No, listen, I'm
not even sure what that's supposed to mean right there. I'm not
know your temper.
I feel like a proud mama. That baby is growing.
Yes, finger snaps for you, and we're supporting.
So Dr. Audrey, as I'm supposed to address you on this episode.
That hurts. It hurts.
No, honestly, as much as I talk crazy, I am so super proud of you, and you are seriously. I will tell people about you in a minute. So, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. If we just, you know, we are having a drink and having, you know, like some crab legs or something, I ain't gonna be like Dr. Audrey then, but you know,
yes.
So,
I know, and I'm super proud of you too.
I know you said like you deal with is it how much different is it dealing with, let's say, like, I guess I'll call myself regular because I'm not incarcerated, as opposed to dealing with people who are going through the, you know, the system and having to deal with not only the fact that they're dealing with the system and maybe they're on their way to transitioning back to, you know, to life outside of that, or, you know, they're how different is it in dealing with those folks as opposed to, you know, someone that's out here on this side?
If you're talking about as far as what issues are concerning to them, there is no difference. You know, I tell people all the time, like, I feel safer walking in a prison or a jail than I do in Walmart. Like, there's no difference.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, I mean, because we all could have gotten ourselves caught up in some situations, you know, in our younger age that could have ended badly for a lot of us. So, you know, it's no different. The things and the traumas that you know, the young men and the adult men and even the women deal with, you know, in jail are the same things we're dealing with every single day. They just have an extra layer of acute stressors, meaning that right time, you know, real time right now, they're dealing with, you know, the lack of freedom. And then now they're caught into the legal system and they're wanting to get home. So if we talk about, you know, long-term traumas, you know, what things are affecting them now that happened to them growing up, we all deal with that stuff. It's just, you know, now that they're just trying to deal with the legal aspect of, you know, how do I get back out into the free world? That's the only difference.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a lot to unpack, Brittany. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And there's so much. There's so many ways that you can tackle it, but I just love like what you were saying with like the Zoom meeting, having that mentorship and talking about it. And yeah, so I just think that that's amazing. There's so much.
I do think the one thing you did say though is putting some of these things into action, which is what I thought was, you know, really good when you talked about the group of gentlemen that, you know, that's one of the ways that they're dealing with it. But they also, you know, they put tasks to action, because I think that's you know, one of the big things to me is, like you said, it's how are we leaving the world for the next set of people, that next generation? Because right now, I was telling Brittany too not long ago, we talk about the images that I'm seeing, right? What about like your son, or, you know, like my godsons and nephews and my son, they're growing up. This is every day for them, and they barely teenagers. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not, you know, so imagine how they're growing up seeing these things happen. And it's like a regular occurrence for them at least once or twice a month. You know?
And we can't get to a place where it's desensitized for them, you know, where they become numb and it's just a way of life. because, my son, and now he's about to turn 9, he knows the difference between first, second, and third degree murder. And that's not something that a 9-year-old should know at this age in his life. But, they see this and they ask questions and they want to know. And the one thing that you must do is you must not hide the truth from a child. You have to educate them and tell them in a way that they understand, and let them know the gravity without allowing them to become angry and consumed with anger as well. But also teach them, okay, so what do we do now? Since this is unfair, since you're dealing with this and we're all dealing with this, what can we do to kind of help this in our own way? And even children can help. My son was making signs for a protest, even though I wasn't, I wouldn't allow him to go out because Corona is real.
Yes, it is.
But he was making signs for the protesters. So, those are things that he felt like he contributed. So, also bring them into the fold and find ways for them to kind of release their negative energy and ask a lot of questions and be honest with them about what's going on. And the one thing that I can say about, a lot of people can say what they want about this younger generation. I admire them. They have the sense of fearlessness that we didn't have. Like they are, if it were not for them, I don't think any of this would have happened, since, because this has been going on for some time and it's been quiet, but it's just like, they're like, no, it's not going to happen on my generation's watch. So, just the boldness and the fearlessness of this generation is to be admired. And I think because they have now stepped up and they've taken the lead, it calls us, the older generation, to say, you know what, we can't allow them to do this by themselves. We need to provide them with some support. So, that's just how I see what's going on.
I agree. I'm loving it. I'm loving seeing all of the revolution and with whatever you want to say about it. But my whole point is that there's a lot of things that are changing, a lot of things that would not have been changing had, these protests still not be going on. And with everything, we're keeping that conversation, keeping it still alive and that we're talking about it even right now. I mean, that's it's historic. It's historic how global this has become.
Right.
Well,
but I just don't want us to have to lose another life or create another hashtag for this to continue. Like we have the fuel. Let's keep the fire burning. Like let's not, allow them to. I'm going to say them, but let's not allow the system, because this is systemic oppression, to give us crumbs to calm us down, and then we're quiet for the next couple of years. We can't allow that to happen. Like we have to kind of, keep our feet to the fire and keep this movement going.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how many more hashtags I can take. But speaking of hashtags, right? And let me shift the conversation a bit. And I'm not sure how deep you may want to get into this one, but this one is this one happened on my social media this week, Dr. Audrey. So I'd like to get your thoughts on it, right? We know Black Lives Matter. That's a hashtag. It's been running for a while. It's a big one. To me, it covers everything Black. I have never taken anybody out of the Black Lives Matter hashtag, right? Never. So this week on Hollywood Boulevard, they paint down the street all Black Lives Matter. And of course, they add the pride colors or whatever. And I just posted it on my Instagram and I was like, I'm really not sure how I feel about this. And I just really wasn't, because in my mind, I have never even thought to think that any of my gay Black friends weren't included. Anybody I met that may have been transgender that was Black wasn't included. I have never thought like that at all. I have never and so people started jumping in my comments trying to explain it to me as if I didn't understand. And I did. But then this one particular comment came and she was like, well, the bigger picture is that the pride community. And I was like, wait a minute. How did that become the bigger picture? Because to me, Black Lives Matter was a big enough picture right there. And maybe I'm just a stir up of things, but what are your thoughts on?
You say?
I stir up things a little bit. I maybe
just a little. No, what I have to say, one, I had to ask questions and become educated about what it meant, because initially when I saw the all, I immediately went to All Lives Matter, and I had to read it again.
Right.
But I think because I have several transgender clients, and their experience is very different from a cisgender person. So, they deal with not only the racial, but they also deal with the gender identity discrimination. And so even though they do share the racial discrimination disparities with us, there's another element that we just won't be able to understand unless we educate ourselves and we talk to them, because they get it on both ends. So
right.
If you're asking how I feel about it, I completely understand. But does it take away from what we're trying to do? No, I hope that it doesn't, because like you said, when we say Black lives, I'm considering all lives, every Black person. Like we're all in this together. But what they've done is they just raise the stakes and they just say, okay, I'm Black with you, but still accept me even because I am, transgender. Because I can tell you now, and Ekin, I think you can agree with this, the Black community is not very supportive of, just collectively of the transgender movement.
Right.
Historically going back to the Black churches and, this hyper-masculinity of, Black men, men were not very accepting of the transgender lifestyle. So they're just saying, make sure when you talk about Black lives, don't exclude us because we're Black too, but you still discriminate against us because of our choice of gender. So that's how I take it. I'm not offended because we need to include them as well. I think that we can get more momentum if we include everyone who's willing to push our agenda.
Right. Brittany, I know you wanted to jump in because you jumped right in my comments as soon as you saw me make that post.
Yes, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, "This is amazing," and I know why. I know why they did it. I know exactly why, and it's because of what Dr. Audrey just touched on right now. And it is like we have to acknowledge. Remember, I said this is like what I heard someone say. This is the season of accountability, and also we need acknowledgement, right? Like from law enforcement, we need acknowledgement that this is not okay. That was not okay. And I know that with the LGBTQ community and the Black community in that community, that they don't feel safe within their own community to be out in the open, to be able to to be who they are. They're afraid of their own even killing them for that, and that's a real fear, right? So that to me was like, yes, when you're saying all the Black Lives Matter, make sure you're also seeing us as a equal value of Black life, just because our love, who we love is different, or who we identify is different. And that's the real problem too, is that they don't have the same, they're just almost seen like inferior or shouldn't be cared about, not valued people, unfortunately, because of that. And so that's what I saw too.
Right. And I get that. And don't get me wrong. Right. And don't get me wrong. I did learn a little compassion, and I'm never mad at anyone in my comments, as long as it's a healthy discussion, because honestly and truly, like, when I say Black Lives Matter, maybe I'm just that guy. Like but you are very accepting, and you're very open and open-minded. And that's why that's why it hit you different, because you're like, but I love is love. Like, as far as like, Black lives, that's what I care about. But there's so many other people not like you, Ekin, who are Black people and don't think that you know what I'm saying, because of that LGBTQ part, that you're as, you should, I don't know, but that's what I'm trying to say. But that's why it's because you're heart.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I learned some compassion. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. And like I said, whenever I open up my comments, what I've learned too is the bigger this platform gets for us, and I'm happy about it. I just tell everybody when I put something up, I'm open to healthy discussion, but don't make me go back to the old me. The old me can quickly become the new me.
Yeah, we don't want that.
I tell them quick in my comments, and Brittany, I'll tell them in my comments, do not turn me back to the old me, because the old me can become the new me real quick. But I mean, healthy discussion is good, and you learn something.
Next time at me.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
At me next next time, Brittany.
I will.
But Dr. Audrey, I do. You stayed longer than I thought you would stay. I know you asked how long you had to stay, but I'm so glad you stayed, and it was honestly. I don't.
Listen, Brittany. Listen. I'm on vacation. The kids are out splashing the pool, so you know this is important for me. I'm sitting in the sauna, talking to y'all.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Can you do us this favor, like if someone wanted to get in touch with you or write you an email or like Brittany, I already think Brittany want to bother you, so I don't.
Just go ahead and.
Oh my Lord! How could they get in touch with you?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm Calyx Psychological, and that's CALYX Calyx Psychological on Instagram. On Facebook, we are Calyx Psychological Services. And to inbox me, or you can inbox me on either one, or you can also email us at info@calyxpsychological.com. And that's Calyx, CALYX.
Man. I almost feel like I was overwhelmed with the intelligence of you two ladies today on the podcast.
It was all Dr. Audrey, but I learned so much. So you should.
I do. Like I do. Like, you know what? I don't even, Brittany, I don't even know if we need to talk about anything else today. I think this was enough info right here.
That's been said on this podcast, so we should end it here.
Yeah, I think that the info you gave us today, Dr. Audrey, like I honestly, seriously, like I laugh about it a lot, but like I told Brittany, I really do think that it's a discussion that more of us need to have. And I like the idea that you said, that maybe some of the brothers I know in Tampa, but I got to get some better friends, because some of these DJ friends and the ones who want to be in VIP, I don't know about being on no Zoom call with them, because I don't want to. Yeah. Hey, I don't want to be on a Zoom call. They talk about, hey, you got VIP on this Zoom call? That ain't how I want my Zoom calls to go. Okay.
You gotta choose your support carefully.
Yes, but no, I like that, and I definitely am a big fan of the whole mentoring thing in the next generation. So that's a big deal to me too. So I think if they just heard a little bit of this, that folks should have some good ideas about where to move to. And I hope that the brothers who listen and support me, that that they continue to be open to, if something is on their mind, like you may need to talk to somebody. Don't be afraid, and like look into that. And hey, are there any like websites too that someone could go to and maybe try to get some information on where to find a therapist or someone to talk to? Are there any websites and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So my line sister actually is Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, who owns Therapy for Black Girls. So if you go to her website, Therapy for Black Girls, she has a listing of hundreds of Black therapists that you could choose from. So I know it says Therapy for Black Girls, but you can definitely find a therapist there who also sees Black men as well.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. See, I'm going to share that info too. Because that is so important.
Dr. Audrey, let me tell you something.
I'm going to tell you, it's really, before we cut, it's really important that you ask your therapist their experience with treating people of color, that's Black and brown, because a lot of therapists are not culturally sensitive. Because I'm not afraid to say if the therapist has a therapist. And so I've gone through several therapists, and, sometimes I had to go to therapists who are not Black. And, some of the comments were a little bit off-putting. Like, you absolutely have no idea what I go through as a Black woman for you to say something like that. So that let me know that they lack cultural sensitivity. So when you can't even relate to someone, it's hard to be vulnerable and open up to them. So make sure that you're asking and interview your therapist. Because this person is going to be the keeper of your secrets. And so you have to be able to trust them. And so you interview that person to see if that's going to be a good fit. And one question I always ask is, what is your experience with treating Black people?
Straight to the point, and it's necessary. It's a valid question. I love that you're saying that too. It is okay to ask that out loud, because honestly, if anyone, even me as a Spanish woman, like I would feel like, oh, is that rude if I were to say, hey, have you ever, worked with the Spanish people before? It's kind of an uncomfortable thing, but But I can see why it's so important to like, no, actually it makes a huge difference in how you're going to be treated as far as like, the help that you're going to get in a healthy way. And so yeah, I'm so glad you pointed that out.
Right. And remember, as a therapist, we work for you. You're the boss. Like, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to come to me. Like, you find someone who you feel comfortable with. So this is your mental health. You take charge. You ask the questions, and you should never be uncomfortable asking a question that's going to benefit you.
You see?
I have two doctors now, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Audrey. Those are my two doctors.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. How did Fauci get in here again?
Thank you, Brittany. I'll take it.
Oh, so I'm gonna have to hear your name mentioned every week now.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Dr. Fauci has made his way to a coffee cup. If she shows up on this pod with a picture of you on a coffee cup, I am done. Let me just tell you right now. If she shows up on this pod with a picture of you on a coffee cup, I am done. It's over for that day. We're gonna have to take a break for 2 weeks.
Don't let me find your address. It's in the mail.
Oh my
God. It's
happening. I appreciate you, and seriously, in all seriousness though, I knew that I was, in all of our years of friendship though, I just had a feeling that this would be a conversation with the right person to help us understand, what I'm saying, like where we're going and how we can get some assistance, right. and that we shouldn't feel like we're the only ones if we feel a certain kind of way, man. And I really appreciate you coming on here and having this open and candid conversation with us. I really do.
Yeah, no problem. The pleasure has been all mine. And, if anytime you need me again, you just give me a call. And Brittany, thank you so much for inviting me. And so I'm always here to help support.
Well, I can see now, Brittany, now that Brittany knows you, she can be like, well, she should come back like every other month at least. We probably I can feel that coming, man.
If that is what Brittany wants, that is what Brittany gets.
Yes.
And for everybody rocking with us, man, this has been another edition of the DJ Ekin podcast with the lovely Miss Brittany Gonzalez and our guest today, Dr. Audrey. Brittany, where can they find you at on social media?
You can find me at Brunch with Brittany everywhere.
At DJ Ekin across everything, and you can. What are we supposed to say? Like, subscribe, download, all that good stuff.
Yes, subscribe, download, share this with your friends, your mom, your dad, everybody.
I got the speech down because I mess it up every week, man. DJ Ekin podcast, wherever you get your podcast fix, man. We're gone.